what I want to do now is test fit the hide on the mannequin, and before I do that I'm going to stretch the hide a little bit. So I'm in the process of deflating a basketball here. I'm going to put this up in the chest cavity, start up in there about as far as I can go, and inflate it, and let that stretch the hide a little bit, and then kind of deflate it and work my way down the neck a little bit. What I'll probably do, just based on, I guess you can't really see what I'm doing here, can you? I've got it right here. I'll probably bring it up a little bit closer to my cut. I might even have to make my cut a little bit bigger in order to fit it over the head completely. But right now, as you can see, the basketball's right here. I'm stretching the hide, but I might want to come up in here on my next go around and stretch a little bit there. Obviously, I'm feeling how much tension and pressure and all that's happening here. I don't want to overdo it and have something blow out on me. One thing I did when I measured this hide before buying the mannequin is I measured it without having stretched it, because I wanted it to fit on there nice and easy. I could have probably stretched it and gained an extra inch even and had a more swollen looking neck on the final mount. But my very first mount that I did, I had some problems stretching the hide to get it to fit on the mannequin, and I ended up shaving down the back of the mannequin a little bit to try to get it to fit on, and it ended up looking awful. So I thought, until I get more experience, I'm not going to go for the most swelled up possible neck I can get. I'm just going to have, give myself a relaxed fit. So I'm going to deflate a little bit, move the ball up, inflate it, and then move it back a little bit and inflate it, and then I'll do a test fit. Alright, now that I've got my hide test fitted on the mannequin here, and it fits over there okay, I'm going to take it back off, get the glue ready, and get the ears ready. Alright, I'm just test fitting the ears here. Slide them in. For the ears, the skin, you want the skin to lay down in there easily. It's going to be shrinking. This skin is going to shrink once it starts to really dry out. So when that happens, if this ear is if everything's too tight, then it's going to kind of pull away and drum up, and it's going to be kind of bubbled up in here. But this looks good. It looks like I don't really need to trim this ear, and that it should work just fine the way it is. I'll do the same on the other, and then I'll get these ears cleaned up and ready to glue. Now for the ears, I'm going to rough them up with the stout rougher, and then I'm going to dip them into some lacquer thinner here. That lacquer thinner really softens up the plastic. And you put the actual flesh of the ear in there too to clean that up. Alright, so I've mixed up my glue for the ears. Obviously, since the tip of the ear has to go through the whole ear to get into place, there's a chance that some of your glue can get pushed off of that tip, so you definitely want to make sure you have enough glue out here at the tip. I'll want to get good coverage down in there, because you need that skin to be held tight to the ear. I'm just using a little piece of a wood shim to move the glue around as well. Nothing fancy. So this is, you want the very edge of the ear where the white goes to brown, right on the edge of the ear, the plastic, insert. So that's what I'm just kind of working it around, making sure everything's pressed in tight. Now I'm going to start putting some of the hide paste on, or the glue, and I'm basically just going to start on the mannequin here and focus on the neck. And I'll probably leave the very back of the mannequin until later. I can peel the hide up a little bit to get at that. And one thing I learned last time when I did this is I put the glue all the way over the back here, and you got to remember you're going to be stitching in the back. And basically, because I had too much glue right on the back here, it was a mess where I was trying to stitch. And so I'm going to not put glue there until, I might not even put any glue right where the stitching is going to be, so I don't have that issue again. Now right in here on this part of the face I'm going to do, but I'm going to leave the nose until after I get the hide on. Now before I slip this on there, I just remembered I want to pre-punch some holes in here for the sewing process. Because what I found last year when I went to do it, as I was mentioning, it was making a mess with all the glue everywhere, but I was also having a hard time, getting the needle through. And so I bought one of these little punchers here for stitching it, and having those holes pre-punched, you can just slip the needle right through, and it just makes it so much easier. Alright, now I'm going to slip this over. So, got the heater running here obviously, but I'm using critter clay and I'm building out the ears right now before I put the antlers on. So once those antlers are on, that's just going to be, I'll just have to kind of fight around them. So I just want to get my starting basis for the base of the ear built up. And then now that I got that, the clay kind of built up in there, I'll be able to, manipulate this and work it around. So now I can actually attach my antlers. Alright, I just screwed on the antlers here. So what I'm going to do is take my critter clay and go around here and build this up to make it look a little more natural. And then I'll start working on the eyes. This is just kind of to blend it all, give it a smooth transition under there. And I'm trying to, keep the clay down off of the skull plate enough so I get good glue adhesion right by the antler burr there. Alright, I just set my eyes in there. All I did was take a little piece of clay, put it on the back of the eye and pop it on there. And now I'm going to work around, building up around the eye. Last year when I did this, I did all the work around the eye first, and then I tried to pull the cape over, and I ended up messing it all up. So this year, I'm just simply, I pulled the cape over first, and now I'm going to work on the eyes. And in order to try to keep them as symmetrical as possible, I'm going to roll out my clay in advance and compare them before I put them on there. So I'm using Wasco clay for this. I have a little modeling tool here, which in my opinion is extremely helpful. And one thing I mentioned before, I kind of messed up the eyes a little bit last year. The lowest point on the bottom of the eye is right around the middle, right in here. But the highest point on the top of the eye is about a third in, whereas last year I had it back a little too far, which is why my eyes looked a little bit off on that mount. Alright, next step on my eye is I want to come in here. This piece. Adding some glue now. I put some glue on up here and then just pulled the cape up. Now I want to get the nose area here. This is a very helpful tool for getting the lips in there. That's what I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to start in the front here and get this front part centered. Tuck it up in there. Alright, when I measured this hide to get the mannequin, I hadn't stretched it, and I could have fit, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but there's about 2.5, even 3 inches of empty hide right there. I could have gotten a much bigger neck on this, made it look a lot better, but it's a lesson learned. I did not stretch the hide before measuring it for the mannequin. I just turned it inside out and measured it out. So in the future I will stretch it first, and because obviously when they have a bigger neck it looks a little bit nicer, a little swelled up. So just pointing that out. I'm going to trim some of this hide off the back and staple that on. So I need to basically tuck this. I'm just using this tool to tuck that eyelid skin up underneath the clay. Alright, so now I'm going to give you an up-close look at what I've been doing here. I stitched down the back here, and once this hair dries a little bit, I'll comb it out, and it'll look a lot better than it currently does. Pulled it up in tight to the antler burr, formed the ears out, and I decided to point them forward, you know, as if it's alert. And because especially with the nose, I didn't do a very good job getting the nose off the deer, so I have a little bit of a glitch here. I'll have to play with that and some paint. But I took a plastic bag and I shoved it up in the nostrils, and that helps keep the little bit of tuck skin in there against the glue. And I just put these pins in around, especially since this hide is a little bit big for the mannequin. When it dries, it'll be wanting to pull and stuff, and I didn't want it to pull open the lips or pull the nose away, so that's what's going on with that. My eyes, I made the high point like right here for going over the top, and then kind of more toward the middle for the bottom. So I did a little bit better job with the eyes on this one than I did last year, and I just tucked the tear duct in. I did have a little bit of a cut right there. Not sure how that's going to pan out. There's the white is actually just the deer anyway, but there is a little cut right there. But it's kind of disguised in there a little bit, so we'll see how that goes when we get to the finished work. And because of the definition in the mount, I took a little strip of cardboard and used these upholstery tacks to just push it up in there, and I did the same down in here for where the right inside that shoulder blade. And what that does is it helps keep that up against the glue as it's drying. And so that's where I'm at. Basically let it dry for 2 weeks. Come down and check it pretty much every day. The last year that I did, I checked it every day for the first couple days, and then I actually had the eyes kind of pull a little bit away from the glass, and so I'm going to be checking it every day for the 2 weeks, and if it's starting to come up, I'll just gently push that back down. And that's one of the reasons you do that, while it's drying, through the drying process. You just kind of keep working it into shape, and then I'll get my brush out and brush it out, and then at that point we'll get to the finished work with the paint and stuff like that.